One of the hotel guests who had seen it commented that that was the best show they had ever seen. A well-dressed lady said, "I have never seen that in all my travels. A hotel with living ducks swimming in the pool. Wonderful, simply wonderful." All of the guests enjoyed John Phillip's. "Sir," said one of the bellmen. "Oh, sir, wouldn't it be something if we could have ducks swimming in our pool all the time?" Everyone cheered and clapped with their approval. "Mr. Schutz, I could teach all of them very ducks to do tricks and march in and out of the pool." He pointed to the small ducks. "People from everywhere would come. I know they would." Mr. Schutz thought for a long moment. Then he conferred with his partners and hunting pals. "Tell you what, boy, I'm going to let you train him. I'll give you 1 month and march them all to the lobby, get in the fountain, and stay all day, then march out again. And can he stay there except for when I take him home?" "Well, I guess he can, but you have 1 month to show me." And he disappeared. Mr. Schutz let Edward build a duck house up on the roof of the hotel. Every day he trained the ducks to march, tapping his stick. He got them to march from the roof top to the pool, into the elevator, down 12 floors. When it opened, they would go straight through the lobby. At first, they all scattered, but then John Phillip helped Edward round them up. Finally, Edward got them all to march to the fountain, go up 3 steps that he had made, and plop into the water as they hopped off and waddled around the lobby again. Edward worked and worked with them for days. At last he got them trained to stay in the fountain all day. In good times, because his month was up the very next day, it was a Friday afternoon at 3. Mr. Schutz and many hotel guests were already seated in the lobby. Edward was very nervous. He took the elevator up to the roof to get the ducks. John Phillip led them all down as usual. They marched into the elevator as usual. Those 12 floors seemed to take forever. When the doors opened to the lobby, Edward could see Mr. Schutz looking down and very stern. Edward then noticed the bellman had rolled out a red carpet to the fountain. They had placed velvet ropes on either side, and all of the staff winked at him. Then Edward heard a brass band playing John Philip Sousa. His own pa had put on the record. He looked so proud, but a little worried. Edward tapped his stick, and all the ducks marched perfectly down the carpet. People were oohing and awing as they passed by. With a few taps of his stick, the ducks hopped into the fountain one by one, and the carpet was rolled up. The velvet ropes and stairs stayed. The ducks swam and swam as people crowded around. "Well, this is by dippy the best show I've ever seen," said Mr. Schutz. "The test ain't over yet," Mr. Schutz added. "These ducks have to stay in this fountain all day long." Edward knew it would be a big test. All that day he stayed out of sight and watched to see if any of his trainees tried to get out of the fountain. But none of them did. They just swam there all day long. About 5 o'clock, the red carpet was rolled out again, the velvet ropes and the steps put in place. The elevator opened and Edward tapped his sticks and the ducks jumped out of the fountain one by one. They marched up to the red carpet again to the John Philip Sousa march, then waddled into the elevator, rode up to the roof, and marched into the duck house. "We did it," Edward whispered to all of the ducks as he fed them. "None of this would have happened if I hadn't have found you," he whispered as he petted John Philip's head. Edward took the elevator downstairs again, and when the doors opened, it was Mr. Schutz waiting for him, and all the staff gathered around the lobby, even Edward's pa. Mr. Schutz cleared his throat. He had found this uniform. We have found this uniform especially for you, my boy. You did what we reckoned was might near impossible, but you did it, and I stand corrected. Well done, son. Mr. Schutz then handed the splendid uniform with 2 rows of brass buttons and a grand cap to Edward. I hereby declare you Edward Pembroke, official duckmaster of the Peabody Hotel. Everyone cheered. Edward's dream had come true. He'd wear that wonderful uniform with the brass buttons and march to John Phillip Sousa and be near his beloved ducks. Now, over the years, Edward Pembroke trained many ducks to march to the fountain at the Peabody Hotel in Memphis. He personally trained every one. He served as the duck master for 3 months or so. Then they would return to the wild, except for John Phillip, who always stayed all of his duck life with Edward. Edward Pembroke served as the duck master of the Peabody Hotel for over 50 years. The hotel even named a room after him. When he retired to move to his dear little farm outside of Memphis, there he had his own very own pond for John Phillip's descendants. But he would search the skies every day, hoping to see the wild ducks that might land and stay with him. But they always flew over and disappeared into the horizon. It is said that on one day, Edward was sitting by his pond and John Philip March came on the radio. He turned it up as loud as it would go and then stood up and doffed his hat. At that very moment, a flock of wild ducks flying overhead rolled out in a circle formation and landed. They marched right up and cocked their heads. They came by the hundreds, his graduates, all of them. And for the rest of his days, they say, whenever those ducks passed by, they never failed to stop over and march again with their beloved duck master. You can find out more about the Peabody Hotel and the ducks of the Peabody Motel if you Google that. This book is by Patricia Polacco. It is a fictional book, but it is based on some real information. I hope you enjoyed it.